What if our species lived in a world with another kind of human? A human species very similar to us, extinct for thousands of years, but still present today in the genetic code of many people, possibly even yours. They didn't just interact with us, they lived together, sometimes violently, sometimes through fragile alliances. All of this happened tens of thousands of years ago as Europe faced the harsh conditions of the last ice age. Why are we still on this planet and they are not? This is Earth tens of thousands of years ago, a harsh planet shaped by ice, vast forests, open plains, and powerful animals that no longer exist. Survival here is difficult and unpredictable, and this world was not inhabited by just one kind of human. At this time, Homo sapiens were not alone. Across Europe and parts of Western Asia lived another human species, the Neanderthals. They were not myths or primitive creatures. They were humans, adapted to their environment, surviving and thriving long before modern humans arrived. But how different were they from us, really? Neanderthals lived mainly in cold regions. Their bodies were shorter, stronger, and more muscular, built to conserve heat. They hunted large animals, mastered fire, made complex stone tools, and lived in small groups. Their world was tough, but in many ways, they were perfectly shaped to survive in it. Meanwhile, Homo sapiens were evolving along a different path. Originating in Africa, they lived in more varied climates and developed highly flexible behaviors. Their tools changed more often. Their groups were larger and more connected. They used symbols, art, and increasingly complex language. This allowed ideas, skills, and knowledge to spread faster. For thousands of years, these two species lived separate lives. They hunted different lands and followed different routes. But as Homo sapiens began migrating out of Africa, their paths eventually crossed. This did not happen once or in a single place. It happened many times, across generations, especially in regions like Europe. And when that happened, everything began to change. When they met, the encounter was not a single story. Sometimes it may have been tense. Other times cautious, and in many cases, surprisingly human. They followed the same animal herds. They sought shelter in the same caves. They watched each other from a distance, learned from one another, and adapted. Archaeological evidence suggests they exchanged tools and techniques. Some Homo sapiens adopted Neanderthal methods of survival. Some Neanderthals used tools similar to those made by sapiens. Communication likely began simply: gestures, sounds, facial expressions. Over time, in certain places, it may have become more complex. Neanderthals had the physical ability for speech, and their brains were capable of language. These encounters were not silent, and they were not accidental. There was competition, especially when resources were scarce. Both species hunted the same animals and needed the same land. In difficult climates, survival meant tough choices. Conflict was likely unavoidable at times, but competition alone does not explain what happened next. There is one fact that changes the entire story. Homo sapiens and Neanderthals didn't just coexist, they interbred. This means their relationship went far beyond rivalry. They formed families, their bloodlines merged. So what happened to the Neanderthals? They did not vanish overnight. Their disappearance was slow, complex, and gradual. Neanderthals lived in smaller, more isolated populations. When climate shifts occurred or food became scarce, They had fewer connections to rely on. Homo sapiens, on the other hand, adapted faster to change. Over time, Neanderthals were absorbed. Some groups died out. Others became part of the growing Homo sapiens population through interbreeding. Eventually, they stopped existing as a separate species, but not as a presence. The story of Homo sapiens and Neanderthals is not one of simple domination. It is a story of adaptation and coexistence. A reminder that human evolution was never a straight line, but a tangled journey across a dangerous and fascinating world.